Imagine reconnecting with people who were once like family to you, only to be reminded of a dark chapter in your past. Now, imagine that revealing the truth about that chapter could destroy someone's future and possibly an entire family. Today's story is about a woman who faced that exact dilemma. After years of silence, she decided to speak up about something that happened when she was just 17 years old. But was she justified, or did she cross a line by sharing the truth at the wrong time? Let's dive into the details and decide together. Was she the hero or did she go too far? Story number 1. AITA for ruining an engagement by revealing that I was raped by him 10 years ago? A little backstory is needed, so please stick with me. Growing up, I, F27, had a childhood friend, Angie, F27, who was as close as a real sister. We spent entire weekends at each other's place, celebrated family events, etc. From 6 years old till 18 years old. Elle even lived at her place in 2nd grade while my parents went through a nasty dervis. I learned to speak some Russian, as she is Russian, and she learned to speak some Spanish. Needless to say, her older brother and little sister were like a family to me. During our teenage years, she had her 2 male best friends, one whom she started dating, and another one, Nico, now 29, who was Russian as well, whom I started dating at 17. Growing up, I had issues with a heart condition. I won't bore you with the details, but I had to take a lot of meds, but got healthier starting from 16. One didn't have to take them daily, but only when my heart rate became irregular. But then immediately, as it would become extremely painful, my heart would cramp, I would start to hyperventilate. All my friends knew this, Nico included, and that I would black out if my meds got taken with alcohol. I didn't smoke much or drink much growing up as a result, since I was worried about my health and only did drink at home or in a safe setting. Legal drinking age is 16 here, and I only drank wine or beer if at all. I had my first time with Nico at 17, and when my parents stayed at a retreat 2 weeks later, he came over to have a date night. I did drink 1 glass of wine, but starting having health issues later resulting in me taking my meds and being unconscious. I was a bit sore the next morning but didn't think much about it. 2 weeks later, I'm informing Nico that I'm late on my period and he starts to panic, confessing he had sex with me while I was unconscious. We had it before, so he didn't think much about it. Apparently he didn't have a condom, but since I was on the pill he figured it was alright, and he also didn't come in me, but in a tissue. I felt violated and disgusted by myself. I didn't know how to describe this, and only told Angie about it. I was an utter mess for a few years, and wasn't able to have sex again until 2 years later. I didn't remember any of it, but was too ashamed to go to my mom or anybody else. I didn't think of it as rape back then. I was too young to really understand what and how I was violated, and Angie told me it's all right. I should break up if I feel bad about it. But we were in a relationship and did have sex before. I broke up with him the following day, and apparently he cried about his broken heart to her. As Nico and Angie were close and hanging out together a lot, they started dating a few months afterwards, and I had to see him every time when visiting her. I told her I'm not able to see him, but she didn't understand where I'm coming from. The contact stopped, and we haven't texted or seen each other in years. I still followed her and her family and saw that her brother is expecting his first child. As I was extremely close with her family, I just commented on the Insta post expressing my gratitude when he reached out to me. I missed his wedding, but he wanted to ask if I would be interested in joining the baby's shower, as it's been years, and we've been extremely close before. He told me I was like a third little sister. I just asked if Nico will be attending as well, as Angie and him have been dating for 9 years now, and he said yes. I didn't elaborate much, but just expressed that I'll send a small present. He can give me his current address but won't be attending. He kept on pestering me what exactly happened all those years ago and why I'm not in their lives anymore. Angie told her family I'm not able to see her with an ex of mine, but her brother thought there's more behind it. This is when I think I could be the asshole. I told him the truth about what happened back then, and while I didn't know it at 17, I know now that this was rape, and I named it as such. I didn't receive any message back from him, but a few days later, Angie reached out to me, furious. Nico had planned to propose during the baby shower, but Angie's brother is against it now, having learnt why I stopped the contact. She loves Nico and will stay with him. But by doing so, her brother said she is no longer a part of his life, as he doesn't want his little baby girl in the same family as a rapist. Nico raped me when I was his girlfriend 10 years ago. I didn't see it as rape back then, as I was unconscious. Afterwards, I broke up with him. Shortly after, my best friend Angie from elementary school started dating him, and they had been together for almost 10 years. I couldn't bear seeing him, and cut the contact with her and her family, with whom I was really close. Her brother Sven reached out to me 3 months ago after I left a short congratulation on a pregnancy picture with his wife. He invited me to their baby shower, and I declined. After a lot of back and forth about him asking me and being suspicious as to why the contact broke off in the first place, and why I refused to be in the same space as his sister's boyfriend, I confessed what happened back when I was 17. Afterwards, his family had a huge fight, with him wanting to cut Nico out of their lives for being a rapist and his mom and sister standing by Nico. I was the scapegoat and received a log of hurtful messages from both their friends and former classmates. They called me out on ruining a man's life based on a childish mistake. Nico was 19 back then, and even Angie's mom reached out to mine. I was left to pick up my life, my mom being more ashamed than understanding, and started therapy again. I removed almost everybody tied to that incident, Sven, Angie, Nico, their family, old classmates, and only kept contact with old classmates who sent me messages of support. Update 2. I work in a very specialized field. To get the proper qualification, it takes on average 6 to 8 years, bachelor, master, and then state bar to be allowed to practice. While it is not very competitive, not a lot of people choose this profession, and it is highly sought after. My current company paid for my master's and my extensive course as preparation for the bar exam, and I have been doing well there. My HR department called on me 2 months ago. Apparently, they've been getting a lot of outside calls from Angie's mother and other relatives, saying I am involved in a media scandal and being a liability for the company, as I don't have issues ruining the lives of men. How they could imagine this could change anything, I do not understand. I work for a global company. They have known me for years. I never had any issues prior, and quite frankly, they do not care. However, they have been getting frustrated with the amount of calls, and apparently even reached out to the police, and the calls have stopped since. Nonetheless, they reached out to me to check on my mental well-being, offering to give me paid leave till it settles a little bit, and offering company paid therapy. Therapy is covered by my country's health insurance, but it is tricky to get one without waiting time. But I already had my old one on retainer and started going right after the incident. They made it clear that they invested a good amount of money in me and do not wish to lose me. I was ashamed that this part of my private life slipped into my professional one. It started to influence the career I worked hard for years to build, and while my company ensured me that it would not affect the workload and clients I'm getting, word got around, and it was clear from my colleagues that I am going through something nasty, and the company does not want to deal with it. All this stress and anxiety led me to hyper-focus on my work. I took on whatever I could, paranoid that another call would come, and for whatever reason, the company would move me to dead-end department where my car would basically be over. At the same time, I started looking into different companies who would be able to buy me out, as I am tied to my current company for 5 years after graduation. 3 more are left, and I got a management position in a rival company with a huge salary jump. I couldn't be happy about it. I was just relieved I wouldn't get the pity looks from my colleagues anymore. I went to the police with all the hateful messages and the HR protocol with the call history, and got a restraining order for Angie's mom. Should she contact my new company again, I have a public LinkedIn. It is needed for my job. At least I have some sort of proof that her words hold no meaning. I got asked if I want to pursue the rape, but decided against it. It would open the whole ordeal again. I don't have proof besides Nico and Angie not denying it, and quite honestly was afraid of what it would do to my career. I did keep contact with a good friend of mine who grew up in the same small town, but moved away 5 or so years ago. as we share a Nintendo Switch Online family account. So we tend to be in contact at least once a year for a short phone call when she has to send me the money for the subscription, and we just tend to make a phone call with updates out of it. Yesterday was one of those days, and the whole Nico thing came up. While she didn't hear it directly, her mom is still living in the small town and reached out to her, asking if I'm all right. She expressed her disapproval about how everything came to be, as she was close with Angie back in the days as well, and remembered how close we were and how often we spent time together, like sisters. She updated me that 2 months again Sven's baby girl was born, and while neither Nico or Angie were seen in any of the pictures or stories with the baby, a month ago Angie and Nico had an engagement party. Both Sven, the baby, and his wife participated, and are in the family pictures. I remember how enraged Sven's wife was, and how she told me she herself felt uncomfortable with Sven. Now it is all forgotten and forgiven. Nico's parents own a few houses and gifted Angie and Nico a house close to their home, and Sven and his wife apparently bought a house in the same street. It is as if nothing happened at all. Listening to my friend telling me the updates, I'm honestly not sure if I should have asked her to not tell me anything. I just feel empty and betrayed. Not by Angie. She made her choice, not by Sven. It is his sister, and at the end of the day, when he asked me what happened, and then didn't have the decency to answer me, because he saw me as the one who ruined his family, it was clear that the truth didn't matter. Not by Sven's wife, who has a baby girl, an innocent daughter who she should protect as a mother. Even thought she told me she would do her best to keep her daughter away from Nico, but just by life. I fought to have it all behind me, just to have this old wound ripped open again 3 months ago when Sven kept plastering me. I got hate messages. But knowing that maybe someone would be hesitant towards Nico when he showed strange behavior made me feel like maybe I did right. Maybe by speaking up, I helped a girl out to not be raped. My own mother was ashamed of what happened to me. Told me I was to keep it quiet so my family abroad wouldn't get to hear it. Just for it all to be all good again for Nico. After everything that happened these last 3 months, I truly understand why victims of rape chose not to speak up. Story number 2. AITA for telling my girlfriend I can't trust her anymore when it comes to her wanting a baby. I, 28M, have been dating my girlfriend, 26F, for 4 years. She has told me she always wanted children. We just didn't actively try for one, though. I never pressured her into having a baby. It was more so her idea. I make enough, and we own a home, so having a baby is something we can do. So, to clarify, I'm not mad at her for this. I'm extremely concerned, and I feel like everything she has said about her wanting a baby was a lie. Abortion is also legal up to 21 weeks of pregnancy in our state. So she told me she was pregnant. She was having symptoms and took a test. She was happy about it and excited. I was happy as well and offered to make an appointment for her. We both went together, and she was 6 weeks pregnant. We have been planning. She even told her friends and family. She ended up having a miscarriage at around 9 weeks. It was sudden, and she was upset, and I comforted her about it. It seemed very tough for her, so I did my best to try and make her feel better. I had to retrieve something from a drawer in our bedroom, and I found some herbs covered under a bag. It was pennyroyal and mugwort. I was confused because I have heard of pennyroyal being used to cause self-abortions. I asked her about it, and she immediately became defensive and told me that she didn't know where it came from. I kept trying to ask her about it, and she ended up telling me she used it to have a miscarriage. She was crying, and I was just in shock. I asked her why. I told her she didn't have to lie to me about it, and I'm confused because she was the one who really wanted a baby. She didn't give me an answer about it. I told her that we need to go to the hospital to make sure she isn't hurt, since pennyroyal is toxic, but she kept declining. It's been a few days, and she seems fine. I've been trying to ask her about this, but she just says she doesn't want to talk about it. Apparently, she was telling her friends and family she had a miscarriage and has been accepting condolences. She's avoiding this, but I don't want to push it towards her anymore. I'm not too sure what to do about this because I'm worried she might be having some type of mental breakdown or something. I eventually told her that she should not tell me about having a baby again, and I can't trust her about it anymore. She was upset hearing that, but what else could I say about something like this? This might make me a huge asshole, but in the back of my mind has been thinking she might have did this for attention from her friends and family. Ick what to do, and I feel like a horrible person for even thinking this stuff. Update. AITA for telling my girlfriend I can't trust her anymore when it comes to her wanting a baby. Firstly, for some context, we have a Planned Parenthood that specializes in abortions like 5 minutes away. I understand people thinking she didn't want to get an abortion because of protesters. I completely understand. I drive by that specific place every single day for work. I have seen no protesters. It's usually empty, besides a few cars on the side of the road. But I still understand why she wouldn't want a medical abortion from reading the comments. I asked her why. What was her goal here? She was trying really hard to avoid the conversation and left the room, but I apologize if this makes me an asshole. But I told her if we can't have a conversation about this, I have to end the relationship. She came back in and said the reason why she did this was because she never felt like her family gave her enough attention in life and didn't feel supported by them. So she wanted to tell them she had a miscarriage so they can feel bad for her. I was confused because she could have just gotten a medical abortion and lied about it instead of just harming her body with a toxic herb. I asked her about that, and she told me she wanted to have the experience of having an actual miscarriage. I was so confused and in shock, so I didn't say much else because all of this just sounded crazy to me. She told me she didn't want me mad at her, and she doesn't want to break up, and she was literally begging me to not break up with her. I asked her, "Is there any chance the baby wouldn't have been mine?" She said no. I told her she needs to get therapy ASAP. I thankfully make enough to afford therapy, and I told her I will pay for her if she just please go to therapy. She agreed. I also told her she needs to go to the hospital, and I was telling her all of your comments about the septic that can happen in liver and kidney damage, and that kind of scared her into going to the hospital to get checked out. We went to the hospital last night, and thankfully she is okay. Apparently, she drank around 1 cup of it a day for a few days. I found out she was also taking some other things. High dose of vitamin C, turmeric, parsley. Final update. AITA for telling my girlfriend I can't trust her anymore when it comes to having a baby. A lot has happened from my last post, and now everything is calmer now. I'm hoping this will be my last update. Apologies since this is going to be long. In my last post, I told her she needed to go to therapy ASAP. Told her I will pay and everything. I just hope for the love of fucking God for her to please go to therapy. That was the only thing I wanted. I haven't set up anything yet because she told me she doesn't want to go to therapy now. She told me she will never do what she did again and doesn't believe she needs therapy. I was going back and forth with her on this, but she was very insistent on not wanting any therapy. I told her I can't move on in this relationship if she doesn't do therapy. She was arguing with me about it and told me if I loved her, I will stay in this relationship regardless, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. I was pretty pissed hearing that because not only did she purposely miscarry the baby we planned for, she harmed herself for no reason, in her words, to experience an actual miscarriage, and I can't even trust her anymore. I was thinking about telling her parents at this point, and I accidentally brought it up out of worry of her mental health / me being pissed off, and she begged me, got on the ground, begged me to not tell her parents. I took her word, because I didn't want her to lose her mind even more over this. I told her I absolutely have to leave this relationship. I told her it isn't my responsibility anymore, because this has honestly been making me lose my mind too. I was holding it back, but I can't really take it anymore. Also yesterday, before this fight, she publicly stated on Facebook that she had a miscarriage and was tore up about it, accepting condolences again in the comments. I brought that up to her, and she told me the same thing in my last post. She was pretty much just wanting to feel important to friends / family. She was so nonchalant about it, and honestly seemed like she thought I'd think I wouldn't care. I told her to stop posting about it and to stop telling people. Back to when we were having the fight, I told her seriously, I can't be with her anymore. I will allow you to stay here, or you can go back to your parents. She was laying on the ground crying at this point. I had my phone ready because my gut feeling was telling me that she might do something to herself. She would come out of the room she was packing in and come close to me and hug me out of nowhere. She said that if I'm breaking up with her, she wants a last final hug. The wildest thing is she came out of the room with one of my shirts on, a shirt she was not wearing before. Take it off right in front of me and tells me, "Here's your shirt back." I don't know what she was trying to do. She finally ended up leaving and went to her parents. Right before she left, she was crying, and I think it started to hit her that I was actually being serious. She was messaging me and calling me constantly, ranging from her just fixing this together, saying she wants therapy now, and her saying she will never do what she did again. I've been ignoring all of it. I realize this is not my responsibility now, and her parents can take care of it. Like what my worry has been, apparently, she'd try to harm herself. Her mom messaged me about it. She said that her daughter is at the hospital, and I'm assuming now on a hold because she tried to kill herself. She is physically fine. That is the last of it, and I'm thinking this will be my last update. I am not going back to her, and I'm going to try and stop thinking about all of this and get a good lock for my door. Thanks for all of the advice on the last post. Edit, I am telling her parents now. If anything happens, I will just update it here. Edit 2, I ended up telling her parents. I had messages relating to this between me and her, took photos of the herbs she used, told them everything. Thankfully, they didn't accuse me or do anything drastic and thanked me for telling them. They said they will tell the hospital what I told them. Not too sure what's going on at the moment or what's going to happen after since she is being held right now. I will update this if anything else happens. Story number 3. AITA for canceling our wedding days before the event after catching him in a lie that involves a suspected AP, no evidence, and learning that they were at the same hotel, no evidence of being in the same room. Years after he promised to end things with her, I, F39, just ended my engagement in the worst way possible, and I'm humiliated and tired of so many people texting me. I don't want to have to give explanations anymore, because I'm not even sure of what they want. I'd love to catch a plane and run away. I'm coming here to see if my situation happened to anyone out there, and if what I did was catastrophic. My ex Tony M40 and I were together for 5 years, engaged for 1.5. He's a chemical engineer working for a big company. I'm a teacher, but became a business owner 2 years ago. We both have kids, M7, M13, and we are both divorced. My ex cheated. He said he suspected his ex of cheating, but I no longer believe anything he says. We had bad communication issues during the onset of our relationship. He constantly criticized my personal style and showed mistrust about my friendship with other men. For this reason, we broke up. He apologized, and we had a good run for about 7 months when he became hostile out of the blue. I didn't know how to appease him because he went through a stage when everything I did basically irritated him. He has bipolar disorder and anxiety and takes medication. One night, he waited right after we had been on a date to tell me that he had kissed another woman, Jeannie F40, who's also his colleague. He went on a monologue about how great she is and that he had fallen in love. I was floored and even thought that he was kidding. He said she had everything he wanted and that they had planned on going on a trip together. I cut him off immediately and spent the most painful few days trying to understand what just happened. For background, I love this man. He has helped me feel incredibly safe in situations where I was being bullied by my ex-husband. He's the dad that my kid loves so much that he couldn't understand why he's not his bio dad. His son is a ball of pure human decency, and I'm very proud of him. I couldn't wrap my head around his ability to take his love away like that. Also, he mentioned that we were not on the same page career-wise, and that he wanted someone who wasn't bigger than him, but certainly not less. This is exactly why I cursed him out and hung up. We had a long conversation one day after he called me from his job. He said he was uncomfortable with what he did. It took me months to give him another chance after he apologized. He said his trip with Jeannie didn't take place, and that she was taking a position at a different company. I was able to verify that she no longer worked with him. I was very insecure about her for about a year. We built a life together. We did have some ups and downs, but nothing major or that I could call any form of disrespect. He became very self-aware and was sweet and caring. He started acting off months before the wedding. He was occasionally irritated and impatient. He started making unfair comparisons with other women thinner, younger, and prettier. He said he prayed my dress would be nice because his family is very classy. I was tense while cleaning in front of him because he started fault-finding. I gave him space because of his mental health. 3 weeks ago, he used denigration during sex. He used sexist words like see asterisk and said he didn't want me at all. I'm ashamed to admit that I froze. I couldn't think of anything to say. He had his kinks, but they used to be playful. Nothing like this. He also said he's the best that ever happened to me and that I was beneath. After he finished, he said he was appalled by how passively I took his insults and that other women would never allow it. I refused to speak to him for days. I combed everything that I could find trying to see if he was hiding something. I know it's not enough in terms of evidence, but I unblocked Jeannie and started searching everywhere and found that she had been on 2 separate cycling trips with his team. One of the trips included a stay at a bed and breakfast 4 hours away. He did stay, and she had pictures that make it very obvious that she did stay and he never told me about it. I confronted him. He denied that they slept together or even stayed in the same room. The last trip took place in May 2022. He said nothing happened and even said that she's not talking to him and that he didn't tell me because I would start a fight. I went to stay with my best friend, and after trying to rationalize the whole thing, I told him that I wanted to cancel everything. 3 days later, he was refusing to notify his side of the guest list. My dad said he would tear him a new one if he didn't help us cancel. My best friend threatened to publicly humiliate him by posting his picture on TikTok and telling everyone that he was getting stood up. The whole thing was canceled. I'm now living with my parents and dealing with lots of bad emotions. His mom called and apologized, but also called 2 days later to notify me that he needed medical assistance because his mental health is giving him a hard time. His brother says he can't blame me, but some friends in common are saying that I needed evidence of infidelity because I sent him to the hospital. Some people keep texting me with hey and small talk despite me asking for space. I use this number for my business, so changing it is not the best option. I know that I will never speak to him again, but his mother painted everything like he's having dark thoughts and ideations, and I obviously don't want that. I'm surprised at the backlash, so AITA edit. His best friend says I'm irresponsible for getting into a relationship with a man with bipolar disorder without understanding that I need to navigate situations that may not make sense or may be unpleasant. Story number 4. AITA for refusing to put any more time into this family trip. Background. My husband and I have been on multiple cruises and have always gone with one, adults only and 2, with only my side of the family because we like to travel and spend our hard-earned money on enjoying life. We love traveling, but haven't gone since COVID and after having our first child. My husband wanted to take his parents on a cruise for the first time. We told the family about it, and everybody has never been on a cruise, no surprise there, and decided that they want to go too. We said, sure, let's convene and choose the best time for everybody. We all settled on a trip more than 11 months out. This gives everybody more than enough time to save and get necessary documents to travel. After dozens of meetings that goes mostly nowhere, where I have done all the work planning, coordinating, and being on phone calls for a long period of time, we are all booked. Cruise, check. Excursion booked. Flights check. Hotel check. Parking and transportation check. Anxiety from them all not reading or paying attention to having to handhold adults through the entire process. After all the hassle, we are finally 1 month out. Here's where the frustration comes in. The SIL that was not wanting to go originally, note, everybody but 2 siblings are going. She suddenly decides that her family of 4 are going SIL, her husband, and 2 minor kids. Mind, this is the SIL that always does things last minute and shows up late all the time. She has older kids that already booked and are going with 2. but she doesn't contact them or any of her own siblings. She blows up my phone day after day about document requirements, cruise fare, flights, hotels, and everything else that the family have already gone over. Tell me why she isn't reading any of the info we have communicated in the cruise chat and is asking me everything all over again? I'm not one to say no, but I will tell people to wait if I'm busy, i.e., got a job and family of my own to care for. She then, after almost 2 weeks of looking, decides they want to book. Asks me to look at prices, again, and then when I confirm, has the audacity to question that I have the wrong cruise. Excuse me? I was the one that found and coordinated our group cruise. Why would I not know this? Woman shrugging then wants me to book her family, and that she will reimburse me after. What? I told my husband that I have none of their personal info and do not want to be responsible for her family's travel info. He makes it all out to me not wanting to help his sister out because I don't want them to go. SRSLY. I've spent more time the last 2 weeks on her stuff when she still hasn't made up best mind and he's done nothing. Yet I'm the one who doesn't want them to go. I've organized this trip for 20 plus people, and the thanks I got was that I didn't want SIL's family to go. All because he didn't want to tell his sister to book her own freaking trip, enter her family's info, and pay due to not wanting to offend her. On top of all this, turns out SIL's one child didn't even have all the necessary documents to board, so we then have to wait again until I's ready to book. Hello. We are less than a month out. We're going to go through this vicious through again when she's finally ready, with less than enough time to do anything else. I also told my husband that I am not going to be babysitting anybody's kids, nor will I be responsible for them. We told the family that we weren't going to bring our toddler this trip because we wanted time to reconnect for just a few days and be child-free, also because she is still so young. Knowing my in-laws, they will disregard their children and ignore their kids to go enjoy their vacation. I'm not leaving my child at home, just so I can watch others' kids, so that they can go have fun. Overall, this is all unfair to me and has given me so much anxiety and frustration. I can't imagine how the trip will actually play out. AITA for letting this cause a disagreement between my husband and I, and for wanting to back out of the trip altogether. Story number 5. AITA for calling the sheriff after bringing my hostile dog to the dog park. I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm a 17 female, and I got my dog a 1.5 years ago at 8 weeks as a gift from my parents. He is a pit bull / boxer / German shepherd mix at 80 pounds, all white with black spots and a black eye patch and bright blue eyes. Very pretty dog. He has never been a socially adept dog towards people, very nervous. So I started socializing him after he went to the vet a few days after I got him, and he advised me that my dog needed to be socialized ASAP. And that he will always be a nervous, socially anxious dog, but needs to be socialized to where he can be around people without becoming aggressive. Otherwise, it becomes dangerous. So that's exactly what I did. Almost every day I took him to the dog park to be around other dogs and people. He is perfectly fine walking, running, and playing around strangers until they approach him, to which he will bark and run away. Most people, when they first meet him, comment, "Oh, look at your eyes," and ask to pet him, so I tell them he doesn't like strangers. Everyone at the dog park knows this and respects it. A few of them have gotten to the point where they can pet him as they've seen him often enough and he knows them. I am content with this arrangement. He is well trained otherwise and loves playing fetch. The issue arose when 2 seemingly unsupervised kids came into the park wanting to pet the dogs. While he is an off-leash dog, I will come into the park if there are people in the field next to the park to avoid issues, or if there are dogs in the park. This time was when there were people in the field. And so, I was the only one in the park at the time playing fetch. I was sitting on the bench with him bringing me the ball to throw, and the 2 boys came over and asked what his name was. Kids have way too much energy, and the desperation energy around them doesn't sit right with my dog. I told them his name, and they both went to go try to pet him. His fur went up, and he let out a low growl before snatching his ball and walking away. Both boys looked disappointed, so I apologized and said, He's not friendly to strangers. I assumed that would be the end of it, as one of the boys turned to leave. However, the other one decided to walk towards my dog, calling his name. My dog let off a low, uncomfortable growl and walked away, to which the boy still followed him while calling his name and holding out his hand for my dog to come smell. I repeated again, he isn't friendly, and I got ignored. The boy wanting to leave looked uncomfortable. I called my dog to me, as I wanted him in arm's reach, and the boy following him decided this was the perfect opportunity to come closer. Now, while he is a very nervous dog and is very attached to me, meaning he is defensive, calling him over maybe wasn't the smartest choice, as instead of running away, he went into defending me against what he considered a threat. So when the boy came up, instead of running, he stood his ground and started barking, ball still in his mouth, barking for her up and doing that jumping thing. He wasn't moving towards a boy, but I still got up and asked what he was doing, and the boy finally acknowledged me and left with his friend. I was naive to think that would be the end, as a little while later, his mother came back in and got mad at me for not allowing her son to pet my dog. I was honestly kind of shocked and didn't know how to react. I told her that he isn't friendly to strangers, and it is dangerous for everyone for him to try to pet my dog, so I didn't let him. I guess I said the wrong thing, as she accused me of letting a vicious, aggressive pit bull into a public space with little kids. I was already about to leave, as my dog was worn out enough. So I got up without saying anything and went to leave to avoid making it worse. My dog got up and trotted after me. She ran and blocked the gate, saying she was calling the cops and having my dog put down. I didn't want to try to move her as I didn't feel like having to go through her accusing me of assaulting her. So I walked back to the bench and called my father, letting him know what was happening and asked him to come over and help me leave. For a little context, my father is very involved in the community. He works with the police department a lot and is very politically involved. So when he heard she threatened to call the cops, he let me know that he would call the sheriff directly to come over with another officer and told me to not say anything to her. So I did as directed. A few minutes later, 2 officers arrived with my father soon after. She started crying to the officers how I was harassing her and her son after her son asked to pet my dog, and she was blocking the gate still and was too hysterical to move. So my father just climbed over the fence to go talk to me and check on my dog. I got him on a leash. I hadn't before as I didn't want the kid running up to him when I wasn't paying attention, and my dog not being able to run away, while they spoke with the mother. Then they spoke with me and my father to get my side of the story, and the whole time my dog sat at my side, watching the officers without being aggressive. Come to find out, she hadn't called the cops like she threatened, as threatening to have my dog put down and blocking us from leaving the park can be argued as false imprisonment, and so the officers asked if I wanted to press charges. I declined but asked if there would be a note on her record for future incidents, to which they said they would make a note of it in the system. I glanced over at her and she had a smug grin on her face as if saying, I won. It was very satisfying to watch it drop as the officers walked over and had her move over while me and my father left, and she was being told that she was lucky I wasn't pressing charges. Hearing her whine about how unfair it was blah 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 was very satisfying. While I think I handled this well and my father's on my side, my mother thinks I went too far. That should have just had my dog jump the fence and climbed over myself and left instead of involving the cops, especially in front of the young boy. I was asked at the dog park about it the next day as community dog park having cops show up and my dog being recognizable. I explained in one family, who was a young girl about the same age as the boy, sided with me while others seemed uncomfortable but didn't say anything. Now I'm feeling like I might have went too far with how I handled the situation, and I could have left a different way, but I also didn't choose to press charges and just wanted it to be handled without me getting in trouble. But now I feel as I might have taken it too far. So, AITA for calling the sheriff after bringing my hostile dog to the dog park. I don't feel as though I am, but I'd just like the final confirmation. I would like to make an edit for clarification. This is an off-leash dog park. Dogs are specifically not allowed to be leashed at this park as it can become a tangled mess. There is a kids' playground that is also fenced down the street. Both are gated. He is not a friendly dog. That is not the same as being aggressive. He doesn't like strangers approaching him before he is ready. How would you like it if someone almost twice as tall as you came walking up, hands out wanting to pet you when you can just feel their desire leaching off of them, without knowing what that desire is for? What if it was to harm you? You want them to leave you alone, right? He is perfectly fine with people walking past him, and will even sniff them as we walk past sometimes. He will play around them and run past them and brush up against them. What he DOE is senti like is when people reach for him or walk towards him. I am also seeing a lot of comments about me mentioning he is an off-leash dog. Yes, he is. He is trained to come back to me and walk at my hip without a leash. He is trained to play fetch and retrieve for hours on end due to his energy levels. He is not an aggressive dog. He will not go out of his way to go after people. He will run away from people if they come up to him when he doesn't like it. The field next to the park is where we normally go. It is no different than me going to the beach or the dog park. It is just a place for him to run. I chose not to go into the field as there was other people there. I know my dog would have ignored them unless they interrupted us playing fetch. But when you have an off-leash dog that is clearly trained when he brings a ball, drops it at your feet, and sits waiting for you to throw it, you will ask if you can pet it assuming it's friendly. I went to the dog park to avoid something like this happening.